It's funny. I talked to you a little bit at Mesquite a little bit. You had one podium through 4 rounds, and you were not panicking. You were totally happy with your riding. Like it was no, maybe a few years back, you start thinking and second guessing stuff, but I never got the sense that you were at all worried about your riding through the first 4 rounds when you only had one podium and, some crappy races.
Yeah, and I haven't really been stressing much about it. But it just really depends, week to week, like things always change, and it depends the mood that you're in. And like, there's a lot of factors,
Mm-hmm.
But I've just learned, like, I don't know, I just overall a lot happier. And there's certain weeks where that's easier than others,
Mm-hmm.
And then other weeks it's just like it's no big deal. But as a whole, yeah, I've just been pretty relaxed, and I think it's because I'm just really into it lately in the last year or so, a year and a half. Like I don't know, I just really been putting in a lot of work, and obviously with the team, and then like I think it's a snowball a little bit. It's kind of like a snowball effect. So I think I'm just happy doing things, and I don't just judge everything off of one race. And like I said, I've been giving my absolute hardest every single weekend, no matter what happened. And so then I just kind of left satisfied with that feeling, you know what I mean? So I was just like, whatever, like we'll try again next weekend. And I knew that I've been going pretty good, like as a whole, like for a while now. And so I just kind of like, I don't know, I just kind of chill right now and like really like racing dirt bikes. And so I just take it one race at a time. And maybe this is also like the first time I'm kind of like, where I have that mindset a little bit, So I don't know. I'm just kind of running with it. Going with it.
You made it look easy at Glendale. Like I said, I know it's not, but man, it just looked so good. Easy. Throwing down some good lap times. Jason caught you a little bit, and then you're like, okay, watch this, 104, like no problem. So it seemed like it was coming easy to you. That rhythm lane out of the first turn, I don't know if you guys have Dartfish or what you use exactly, but going over the table. And then 3 or going on off, like what was the difference in times?
Yeah.
What was the difference?
It actually was faster. So you got to always, it depends on how you look at it. Like when I look at a rhythm lane and we overlay something, I don't just take like, hey, take the takeoff of the first jump and then the landing of the last. You got to look at it like from, at least apex of corner to landing and maybe almost around the turn, because sometimes it looks like you gain a lot and then in the end by a certain spot, it's really not that much. So I kind of look at it that way. And this was a little bit the case here, but I think going over that tabletop, like the way Jason was doing it, was definitely faster. And actually, and I knew that was, but I picked whatever took the least amount of focus, the least amount of anything, so I could just push through the rhythm. So I knew that this was going just a bit slower, but I felt like if I try my hardest to race that section and then, be super focused on a lot of other areas that I can maybe make up time, then at least he won't catch me. And so I was a little bit worried of that in the beginning of the race because before I kind of figured out until I was like, okay, I got this, let's just keep going. And so it just took a little bit of figuring out, but I did know that Jason's way was technically a little bit faster, but I actually just made the decision to stick with what I knew, race that section really hard, and try it that way.
That sounds like something like when I worked for Ferry, he used to be like, I don't know, man, I can do this for 20 laps, so I'm just going to do this because I can do this for 20 laps really easy, whatever the easier rhythm was. Do you know what I mean? So
and it really depends, because sometimes you have to make the decision to go with a rhythm lane that you're a little bit like not unfamiliar, but if something is like really faster and it's like it's a key area, well then I have to go that route. But I don't know, on this one particular, I just did what I did. Actually, I jumped on the tabletop plateau that I actually didn't do all day, so I guess that was different compared to practice times the whole time.
Well, and then he didn't get the triple off twice that I saw. Maybe there was more, but twice he didn't get the triple off because he went a little long.
Yeah, that pocket, the takeoff was starting to get kind of beat down, so to kind of get in that pocket and it being pretty tight, that was the hard part. And even though I hardly made a mistake, that rhythm lane, I did miss it one time, and that could have been when Jason actually caught me a little bit my way. Like I landed on the tabletop, went through 3-3, and I think I went long and then cased it, and then I just checked up and ended up going like double, triple, single, or whatever it was. So I knew that cost me a little bit of time, and that could have been in that lap where he maybe actually like took a little chunk out.
Yeah, it took a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, so I had just a quick question. You were talking about, you chose the line that took, maybe the least amount of like, focus, something that you could do repeatedly every, for 20 minutes. That that 1-3 where you had to like sit down, seat bounce, and make sure you get over the top of that. I felt like that took a lot of focus. Do you think the other rhythm, it was just you had to get that tabletop, like the backside of it precise to make that triple, and if you messed that up, you like the whole rhythm section was toast?
A little bit, yeah. You just every time you go from something so low, because it was like the step up tabletop thing that they've been really liking. So you go from something so low that's starting to get beat down, and it doesn't give you much pop anymore. And then with that pocket being tight, if you kind of not clip it, but before you land on the backside of it, you are most likely to go over jumper because this thing doesn't pop you high enough. So when you go a little deep on that, you just don't have that forward momentum to actually hit that next triple. And that was just the tricky side of things. And I think it probably the timing of that was probably pretty hard to do. And sometimes you get it good. And actually, the more you do it, you get used to it and kind of get into that flow. But still, though, for how much we try to rush, you want to go fast, but don't rush is what I mean in a race. So when you rush those kind of things, that's when those little over jumps happen, and then you miss the whole rhythm lane, and then you have a much bigger problem.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. Renthal.com bringing you Ken Roczen on the show tonight. Thanks to Renthal for making it happen.
Yeah, Kenny, I was just going to ask you, with the schedule being flipped the last 2 rounds, has that, had you guys changing anything bike setup wise for qualifying versus
a new track? You mean like a fresher
track?
Yeah,
just going first and being on that fresher track compared to going second after the 250s.
No, I left my stuff alone. Actually, it's pretty funny. Like no matter what I did this year, whether I raced Detroit or San Francisco or hardpack, I haven't done a click change. Like I really haven't changed. I just ride the same thing, and I didn't have to do anything because that's. Those change, if you have a fresh track, it's so minor, you know what I mean? That if you are that far off that you have to do something completely different just for that, then I don't know if the setting might be a bit off. So I'm just in a really good window where I don't really have to make any changes. It's a good spot to be in.
And what do you think of going first? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm not saying that in the future you can always come somewhere and then you want to do something, but I just haven't really been feeling the need to, so I've just left it alone actually. And then going first, I don't know. I don't care for it necessarily. Especially this weekend, we had 2 red flags. So from the heat race to the main event, I mean, I don't know. It felt like I could have flown to Florida. Like it was so long. You know what I mean? So but I don't really have a problem getting going. I don't really, whether it's a long break or not, I just kind of I feel pretty comfortable right away. So it's not like I need them to be really back to back, but it is a bit odd after so many years of doing the same thing, and then now. It's kind of screwing the 250 guys over too, because by the time they get off the LCQ, I mean, they have to go straight back to the gate. So it's kind of I don't know. It's a funky one.
Yeah, and I feel like too, right? I mean, all the 450 guys, top 450 guys, not all of them, but the top 450 guys are already down there anyways doing opening ceremonies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
So they don't have to go get dressed an hour early and then go all the way back to the truck and then wait for 45 minutes and then go back down.
Right.
So
one thing about the opening ceremonies, and I was saying this on a review show, I got nothing against the 250 guys, but now because 450s are first, 250 guys are doing the opening parade lap. That used to be one of the coolest honors in the sport to do the opening lap, and now we have 250 guys doing it. I don't know, Kenny, could you do that lap and then go back to the gate, or would you say that's too much? You wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah. If I were to have to go straight to the gate, I would.
You'd be fine with it? Okay, I'm gonna tell.
It's like getting a hot lap or a sight lap.
I know, but
a heat race.
But I feel like these guys on a parade lap to opening ceremonies, they're a little more intense than a parade lap.
You think Nick Gaines would have wanted to?
I don't. Yeah,
wanted Daytona.
That is interesting though, Kenny. Do you mind? Some guys have told me that they like the going second because there's some ruts and some bumps to race against, but with the fresh track, it's so smooth. Does that matter to a guy like you? Do you care?
I don't really care.
Okay,
no.
Yeah.
It is pretty gnarly sometimes though. If you're 450 Heat 2, the track's already mangled sometimes.
Really? Is it?
When
Yeah.
we go to when we go to soft tracks, I mean, if you think about it, from it being brand new, and then the heat races are short, and 20 minutes later we race after practice, and we had a big race, and you go straight back onto a mangled track. Not mangled how it is at the end of a 20, but enough to where it's not like there's no ruts and no bumps and the whoops are all messed up. And you don't get a parade lap for that, so it's not like that's the hard part, I guess, the feeling things out at first. I'm usually pretty good and comfortable at it. So, and then it also depends. 450 is going first, right? Like it's track dependent. Certain tracks they water so much that the first 250 heat race is like where I don't want to be in.
Yeah,
By
yeah.
the time we get to race, it's usually the track's pretty perfect.
Sure.
So, but luckily this weekend they were. I mean, it was spot on. Like they kept moisture in it all day, and then for the first heat race, it was actually pretty tacky.
We got A-Ray in studio here, Ken. He's hung up the boots. Do you feel a little safer out there sometimes knowing A-Ray is not out there with you and like you're not going to get in
I'm
danger
sure he
of
does. Yeah.
a flying bike or anything?
You know what? I honestly, I don't think I've seen you too much around the track for some. There's certain people, like me and Chase actually talk about that sometimes, that when certain weekends, we don't see each other on the track whatsoever. And I don't think we ever had any sketchy moments, did we? Did we? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think I stayed clear,
So
you know.
we steered pretty clear. So
Yeah.
I don't have any complaints.
Can't say the same thing about Anderson, but
Anderson or AC?
yeah, AC.
AC,
yeah.
Anderson. Yeah, you've had your moments.
Yeah, quite a few.
I think there's always people finding each other on the track because it's just how it's weird how it works, right? But
Yeah.
for some reason, it's always like that.
We could do have some phone calls for Ken Roczen. Let's get into it here on the Pulp MX show. First up, it's Zach's on 5. What's up, Zach? What's your question for Ken Roczen?
Hey, I was just on. First off, congrats, Kenny, on the win. Do you think more guys later in their career are going to be open to go your approaches to maybe a not so strict team to be able to try more things and have the openness and freeness?
I mean, it just depends wherever you can find that. You know, I'm not saying that my team is the only one that does that, but like I don't know, it's just certain riders are better in certain teams, you know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of factors around a lot of things. You got to really want it, and then if you put in the effort and the team gives you the effort back, like it's a snowball that kind of just gets rolling. Like I don't think you can just say, hey, I really want to be in this team, and now I'm gonna do it and feel the same way and have the same mindset. Like I think that's something you have to work towards, honestly.
Even the Star guys, like, look, Yamaha 450 effort was in a slump badly, and Star took it over, and we saw the success they had, and one of the things they said was, we just started with a fresh bike, and we let the guys try anything, because they weren't bound by factory rules, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
So it worked for that, right? So,
big factor, yeah.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Blaze is on 3. What's up, Blaze? What's your question for Ken Roczen?
Hey, Steve. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
Wie geht's, Kenny?
Good, danke.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So Ken was thinking, actually had like this vision last night, and it was so ironic Steve put you on the show today. So given how, at this point in your career, like you're not, at least basing off last year, not full-time outdoors, and obviously you have a lot going on, during that time anyways, but has it ever crossed your mind to, maybe not this year, but later on in, in your career, head back home to Teutschenthal for a GP there? Just kind of if things were to line up and everything, has that ever crossed your mind, or does that spark as something that'd be kind of fun or you'd be interested in?
Yeah, no, I mean, totally. Especially in my last year and a half, right? I've kind of done all these, let's call them weirdo races, you know what I mean? Kind of bouncing around. So yeah, in general, yes, I would be interested in that. I think it does require a bit of planning and whatnot because, over there it's not that easy to find all parts. So it's just, yes, I have been thinking about it, but as of right now, I at the same time don't really know what I want. You know what I mean? Like, do I want to race a couple outdoors? Do I not? Like, I'm kind of just super going with the flow. I know that sounds crazy a little bit, but I don't even know what I want myself.
I'm gonna just show up at High Point and set the fastest time. I'm bored. Yeah. Thanks, Blaze.
Danke, Kenny. Auf Wiedersehen für Glück.
Danke. Ciao.
As long as he's not talking shit on Pulp MX right there, I'm good.
Hey, Kenny, have you been in talks at all with any of the World Supercross guys? I know PMG is one of the teams there, and obviously, you ride for them. So, I was just curious if you and Adam Bailey have spoken, about what their plans are.
No, I know they were at one of the. I mean, maybe it was Anaheim too, but honestly, yep. I don't know anything about anything, to be honest.
Okay.
Like I haven't heard anything or talked about it with anybody or what's going on. I'm assuming everything is a go, but I don't even know the schedule. I haven't really checked anything out yet.
Line 4, Ray has a question for Ken about training. Go ahead, Ray.
Hey, Rock. So a couple quick questions off the bike training, like your weekly training. What are you doing in terms of like to maintain like your intervals and your VO2 max? And do you test like with lactate, and do you take ketones like weekly?
I literally do everything by heart. Like, I'm super going with the flow right now. But having said that, it's not like I'm, waking up at noon or whatever. I'm super into, like, I've been really enjoying the riding side of things. And with that comes all the training side of things, And I think, I go by, it's not rocket science, and I keep it fairly simple. I know, how to lift and all that stuff with all my previous trainers that I've worked with. So I know what I need to do. And other than that, like, I like pushing my body at certain times. And then, during the season, honestly, it's not what you think, you're grinding hours and hours and hours. It's actually, if anything, especially probably towards the later stages in the career, it looks quite a bit different for me. There's some certain things I do more of and other things that I do less. And I keep it pretty simple. There's not much to do during the week. It's a lot of recovery focus as well. You know what I mean? And so I kind of play everything by heart, believe it or not.
Thanks, Ray.
Okay, so okay, thank you.
All right. Hey, Ken, I hung out with you a couple times, you and Peyton up in Mesquite. You're back in Florida now. But how did you like that whole experience? Obviously, Courtney from St. George, your wife, and family's up there. And Gary at Mesquite built a pretty cool track. And you were up there for a little while. What did you think of that whole experience? Did you enjoy it?
I absolutely loved it, yeah. I gave them plenty of heads up, and they said they were going to have something ready. And they did. So I had a blast. I think I just done the whole Southern California thing for so long. We have no test track down there. They're up north, and I didn't really know. I didn't want to go and ride shitty public tracks all the time. You know what I mean? So I don't really have private tracks to go to, and so we haven't spent much time in St. George lately, just due to COVID and then kids, and it's just life got a little crazy, right? And so we actually decided to post up out there, and obviously with the kids and being close to the grandparents, Griff's grandma and grandpa and stuff, was kind of like a deciding factor, and I was ready for a change as well. So they really took care of me. They were able to tweak the tracks any day that I needed to, and we're changing some things around, and I really had a blast. And on top of that, the mountain biking was cool. It felt like the whole first 6 races went by so quick, just because I feel like I got to do something new. So yeah, it was awesome.
You were a little stressed about the cold, though. A few times you told me a little cold.
Oh boy, yeah. Obviously I've lived in Florida now for a while, and I didn't realize how much I like warm weather. Yeah. So when we got up there too, the first week, and I stepped outside and I went running in the morning, and I'm like, holy shit, it was 25 degrees or 24 degrees. And we got there at the perfect time. They said it hasn't been this cold this entire time. And this was basically also the coldest week of them all, Yeah. So it was brutal. Like I did not realize how big of an adjustment it makes when you step outside of your climate zone. It was gnarly.
Did you roll around the track at all?
The Supercross track?
Yeah.
No.
You didn't roll around any of the
Ken was
jumps?
trying to get me to do the whoops,
Yeah.
and then Peyton was telling me I had the finish line. I was like, nope.
Well, no, because I know you sit in the press box, and sometimes you're like, oh, that jump's big.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to sit in the press box and just judge everybody.
Yeah.
And that track too, the finish line was tiny.
Yeah.
But the rhythm lanes, they're not up to spec, right? So they're kind of off. They're off size, and they were just really big and really steep. Honestly, pretty damn similar to Phoenix this weekend. Like some of the landings were kind of backwards, when the landing's almost steeper on the landing instead of that face. You know what I mean? So it actually was very similar now that I think about it. Maybe that was it. I did so good this weekend.
Listen, I know one thing. Kenny wanted no part of me on the outdoor track.
Oh.
I got that thing down.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't even go over there to watch. Like I was scared.
There's no way. Yeah, there's no way you wanted a piece of me. But yeah, it was cool to see those guys do it. And yeah, like you said, something different, right?
Yeah, absolutely, something different. And it's not at not necessarily that much altitude, but you can definitely tell on the bike. So that took a little, not like it was huge. Like I don't know how Eli does it. Like he's at a way higher altitude. That thing's got to feel like a 125.
Yeah.
But every time I came to the race, I'm like, man, my bike feels fast, like super snappy.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Ken, one of the big things about going on in the sport, of course, and I talked to Mewey about it, and 9 whoops, those are built, no dragon backs. They're trying to keep you guys safer. I get it. I'm not so sold on it myself, but what's your take on it?
Well, I actually like dragon backs. It's all bite dependent, right? So there was years where I hated everything. And then, like, I normally like dragon backs. So I didn't know of any of the rules. And I heard for the first time last week that there's only allowed to be 9 whoops in a row.
Yeah.
And I was kind of, like, really surprised by it. And then, but I do have to say, this year they have been building the whoops a little bit more mellow.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually really like that because it actually allows us to really race them. And I actually still think they're good enough to where you can make up time, because now it's actually quite a bit of technique thing as well, because you can hit them really fast and potentially miss one and stuff, and they have been getting super chewed up. Like, actually, Anaheim too, they weren't that small, that short set right there, so there's still some tricky sets, but I do think it allows us to race the whoops a little bit more instead of having to pray every lap to make it through them,
Yeah.
Seriously, it's like there were certain years, like also last year, and I think maybe 2022, they were so gnarly that it's kind of hard to, like, consistently make it through without weeding it.
Yeah,
they were big. There was a big set, 2022, one of the Anaheim races after the finish line. It was like right out of a 90.
A1.
Yeah, it was right out of a 90.
A1.
Yeah, I was laying in those a couple times. I flew into the mechanics area.
Yeah, I won there actually, thank God. But yeah, and the set was long. You come out of a 90, no speed at all. They were super steep, and then there's just no room for error.
Yeah, I remember that. So.
And they still get pretty chewed up. They do get chewed up, even when they're small. They get super tricky and sketchy.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your diet. I just seen that you post stuff on social. Like more of like a carnivore-ish diet. I don't know. I might be wrong here, but has that helped out in some of like your health stuff that you've been dealing with in the past?
Yeah, overall, I think that's the way to go. I'm a big believer in it. It's an animal-based diet that I'm on because carnivore, I think, is really just strictly meat and organs and stuff. But yeah, I eat a lot of red meat, and it's basically what you see on Instagram. A lot of avocado, a shit ton of fruit, maple syrup, raw honey. I try to get all my milk in the raw form. So I have a couple of farms out here that I get my stuff from. But then again, I do bend the rules. Like I cannot only survive on fruit and honey, like on heavy days and stuff. Like there's still other things. Like I'll make a potato or something, like even sweet potatoes, but I don't eat any vegetables or. I still, you know how it is. I'm pretty easygoing with stuff. I go with the flow a lot. I definitely base myself around it, but then there's also times like I'll just go off and like eat a pizza or something. And then there's other times I'm super strict. So I kind of go with the flow on that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what's your cheat food, or what's the thing where you're like, I'm just going to do this once in a while because it tastes good? Like, pizza, I guess? Yeah.
Yeah, pizza is probably, I like it. So I'm pretty picky with it, too. I'm picky with everything in general, with my dirt bike and my foods. But I'm a big-time foodie, so I don't like shitty pizza. I'm kind of picky to where I want to order from. Now, if there's only shitty pizza available, well, then I'll take shitty pizza.
You were telling me about some of that stuff in Mesquite one time, and I came home because we drink almond milk in this house, my wife, and I said, hey, I told my wife, Kenny said get milk directly from the farm, no more almond milk. She's like, I'm not doing that. You're drinking almond milk. You're not Ken Roczen. And I'm like, okay, all right, perfect, all right.
The weird part is that in my coffee, because at one point I switched to oat milk. Now oat milk isn't great, but I just put a splash in my coffee, right?
Yeah.
So I stuck with that. I don't really like regular milk in my coffee. So that's pretty much the only time I really take oat milk. Other than that, it's just raw milk.
Yeah.
That's very European.
Yeah. You can get it.
Hey, Kenny, second year at the team, the only change from the outside, I believe, is Sewell's left, and you got Billy now. So how's that transition been?
Yeah, it was. It's been great. Super easy, honestly. The funny part was, so it was kind of set in stone, like, it took a little bit, but then it was set in stone, and I was doing so much traveling that I didn't hit him up for a while. And then at one point I was like, dang it, like I basically have had a mechanic for 4 weeks now. Granted, he was, in Madeira and whatnot, so I didn't see him. But I'm like, man, I got to give the guy a call. I've had a mechanic for so many weeks now, and I haven't even, reached out yet. I felt like a dumbass because that's so not like me. But then sometimes life got fast, and we're traveling, and I'm over here, and it's time difference, and then kids, and so for a while there, I didn't even call him. So then I was like, "Hey,
he's like, fuck this guy."
This is normally not like me. Yeah.
Did you guys get to work much together before the season, or just kind of show up to A1 and introduce yourself?
Showed up to A1, introduced myself, and off we went.
Oh wow,
Wow.
that's gnarly.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I wouldn't like that at all.
Wow. Listen, do you have to tell him to stop waving on AP, or does he tell you that he loves AP, or I don't know if you knew that he worked for Aaron back in the day, but
Yeah. No, I know that he worked for him and Barsha as well.
Yep.
But yeah, no, the transition has been pretty mellow, and honestly, we kind of just rolled with what we were given. Like, if there was an opportunity to get to meet ahead of time, then we would have done it. But then there was so much stuff to do with bikes and getting stuff ready. It just didn't work out. So that's what we were given to us, and other than that, it's been a real nice to work together. I think he's enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. So
before we let you go, Kenny, we'll bring in our next guest here on the line. He's a regular caller, Phil Nicoletti. What's up, Philip?
What's up, fellas?
Hi. How come, Phil? How come Kenny? Like, I watched you, and then I watched Kenny, and there was like a lot of difference between you guys on the track. Is there something? Is there like?
Yeah. Between me and Kenny, there's almost 3 seconds of fucking lap.
Okay, because it seemed like Kenny had an easier time than you did, Phil. So.
Well, I sure hope so. He's one of the best in the world, especially on this past Saturday night. I couldn't fucking believe it. Ken, you were unreal, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was such a big
unreal.
night. Like, I've said it that I don't really win that much anymore, so it's just something has changed where I said it when I wasn't on the podium all the time. I was like, man, like, this shit really has gotten so much harder, and it just was always so far away. So now, like, I really appreciate when things turn out like that. They don't come around that often.
Is there any way, like, you tell Phil he wasn't tripling in the rhythm at the end, the second last one. He was struggling.
The one that Thrasher fucking weeded on, Ken, I didn't do that all day.
Shut up! You did not.
I swear.
That's impressive.
Oh my god! Just do the jumps, Phil.
Yeah, jump the jumps, Phil.
Fuck! I would go 2-3 single. I wouldn't. I never popped that 3 and went 3-3.
You know what it's kind of funny because at first, when you need that pop, you kind of like slow down and you almost use your clutch a little bit. I ended up from second practice on, I landed, never touched the brake, never used the clutch. I just rolled through and I kind of like popped my throttle, and I did that every single lap. I thought it was kind of weird, but I don't know. It felt the most natural to me.
Fuck, dude. I had double front flip written all over that thing if I was to suit that.
It was easy to do there, It was easy to do there.
Oh, I was out. You remember in 2016, Glendale, though? I think you won that night. Do you remember those whoops?
Yes, they came. It was start turn. Yes, that's where I passed Davey, I think, and then into the whoops. So yes, I know exactly where they were. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember how massive those fucking whoops were that night?
Were they? No, I don't remember how big they were.
Well, you wouldn't probably because you were easier for you, but I saw God through those fucking things every time. And that triple this past weekend, same thing. So Glendale's got my number.
After that one rhythm lane, I overjumped that triple by a freaking shit ton in first practice. That's what I mean. I was so off. Like, I was just kind of riding, and I popped that triple, and I thought that thing was massive, and I about landed in the wall.
I need to see RJ's video. He told me he cased that double across the start so bad, and it was only 60 feet, but he spun, and he said Doc G had to put his jaw and his back in place. I don't know, man. I need to see this case. He said,
oh my God.
That double was kind of big.
It wasn't good. Phil, thank God you hit the whoops fast, and that saved you for your top 10, Philip.
Well, there's Phil fast and there's Kenny fast, so if you just compare them, it's like I was decent, I was watching Ken in practice, and there might as well have been a fucking straightaway. So,
did you also see me whacking my own handlebar in my helmet?
No,
Yeah, well, I hit them so fast one time, and I all of a sudden got traction and full-on missed one. And my front popped up, and it literally sucker punched me on the bottom of the jaw, too, and my goggles went into my eyes. And after that, my eyes were tearing so bad I could barely see the track.
Well, I don't know. Phil, just ride more like Ken, okay?
Ride like Ken at 8,000 RPM around the whole Supercross track,
It's always all these riding coaches on social media always put up the winner and say, "This is how I've been saying how to ride." So I'm gonna do the same thing, Phil. I'm gonna say,
I can't stand those videos.
It's just, and they always pick the guys that win. It's amazing. They never show Phil and go, "This is what I'm saying." Nobody says that. Like, it's always the winner. So, yeah.
You know what's funny? Yeah. Those guys on those videos, they dissect it sometimes so hard on what you're doing. I'm like, honestly, I don't even think that far when I'm riding. Like, I'm like, you guys are trying to make rocket science out of this.
Dude, like
I know.
it's like you can win riding like RC, you can win riding like Wyndham, you can win riding like Ken. Like
Billman,
there's many ways to win riding styles.
Yeah.
You know, so
But not like Phil Nicoletti, though. You can't win. So.
No, he won
LCQs.
Yeah, LCQs.
Yeah, you won a lot of LCQs.
How many LCQ wins does Phil have?
I don't know, many. Just those 3.
Oh.
Did you ever win a 450 LCQ, Phil?
That deserves an award in itself. Honestly.
No. Never 450 LCQ. No, 450 semis and stuff. Yeah, and that's it though.
Okay.
Never LCQ. I don't think.
450 LCQ's the gauntlet, bro.
All right. Well, Ken, we'll let you go. I was hoping maybe you could pass on some riding tips to Phil, but we'll, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's
Watch until I suck to the weekend, next weekend or whatever, and then like all this goes out the window, and I'm the most terrible rider again.
Thanks, Ken. Appreciate the time. Congrats on the win, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye,
See you.
Kenny.
Bye.
See ya. That's Ken Roczen, everybody. Brought to you by Renthal, renthal.com. Yeah, just ride like Ken.